Hello again. Let's do some math. And what I mean by that is we're going to what's called size up a loan. We're going to determine the proceeds or the size of a loan based on the net operating income of a property. We've put together a spreadsheet. We'll be happy to allow you to download it and you can play around with it for your own purposes. And it's actually what we use to size a loan, and it's what we use to send over to lenders to show them we've done our work. And they appreciate it. They see that we've done a lot of the work for them, so it's well received. So let's assume that we have qualified a client. They have a need. They own a building, and they want to refinance that property. It's in okay shape, average condition. The borrower says we don't know anything about the borrower's credit history. We're just going on face value. We're going to size up this loan to begin with. So again, this spreadsheet was sort of devised to ease the underwriting. It's what we call it, the underwriting or the analysis of a loan, and we're going to keep it simple today. We're going to have on this rent roll 10 units, and as you can see on the rent roll, we have a description and the tenant name, the move-in date, the length of the lease, the total square footage, if there's a security deposit, the current rent, if there's any other charges, for example, for a garage, and then the total current rent. I left all this stuff out. It's pretty obvious what needs to be filled in here. What's important, what lenders like to see is when leases were signed. They want to see the duration of the tenant, and if there's been a lot of turnover in the property. That's important for a lender, and they also want to see a description of the unit. In other words, 2 bed, 2 bath, 1 bed, 1 bath, etc., just to get an idea of what's being charged and if, comparatively speaking, if the rents are under or over market. So we have, just for simplicity, put in $1,000 a month per unit for a total of $10,000 a month, or $120,000 per year in gross annual income. Some people call this gross scheduled income. You should know that even if, let's say, unit number one is a manager and they're not paying any rent because they're being credited $1,000 a month to be the manager, we will count that income as the scheduled gross income. So it's the best case scenario for that apartment building at any given point in time. And even if you had a vacant unit, we would put the scheduled rent for that vacancy that you believe would be attributable to that unit. So it's what the building looks like at 100% occupied. And it's important to note that this is why we want to see a rent roll from an owner, because there's frequently a case where, let's say, this person had 2 vacant units and they told you their income was $8,000 a month, and you decided to use that number to determine the size of a loan. Well, you'd be shorting the proceeds. So you really need to see the rent roll to make sure that you have everyone filled in. So that's it's $120,000 a year annualized income. We will now look at we use what we call historicals, because if we're submitting this to a lender, we want to show the lender the historical performance of this property. Now, again, if you're just doing a quick analysis, you might not have the last 2 to 3 years of income and expenses. So let's just stay focused on the 2020. And what we're looking at here is total rental top line of it should be 120,000. So let's look at this. Equals F8 divided by 1.03. let's pause here for a second. That really should be equals the current rent roll of 120,000. There we go. Actually, let's use the current pro forma. So here's 120,000. Let's say there's zero other income. It gives us the total rent of 120. There's a 5% vacancy rate. We have the formula baked in here. That's $6,000. Gives us the effective, the EGI of 114,000. I've highlighted what you should be getting from the client, and because these are attributable, these can actually be tracked, right? So your utilities, your insurance, your property taxes, and management fee, those are sort of the four big ones that are consistent with every type of unit, every type of apartment building that's out there. So you should get the utilities, and again the insurance and what they paid for repairs. Now keep in mind, if they had a particularly bad year, the year coming up, the pro forma for the year coming up, 2020, may not be as bad. So we would have a normalized repair bill for that particular apartment complex, and we would look at the historicals, and then we would determine what that might be. It might be $250 a unit a year, and you can go off of that number. If it's an older property that's in disrepair, the bank might adjust that, or the appraiser might adjust that. So it's sort of an extrapolated number. Gardening, whatever they're paying, whatever is fair market in that particular location. Again, cleaning and maintenance. Depending on how much turnover there is in the building, the cleaning and maintenance can be lumped in some cases with repairs. So again, you have to look at the books and records of the owner to look at it historically and determine what that is. Property taxes or property taxes, that's documented. Miscellaneous could be anything from their auto to their cell phone to meals and entertainment. And then legal fees, again, other can be lumped in with miscellaneous. And then there's the management fee, which is generally 5% of the gross income, which was 120,000 times 5% is 6,000. We've baked in the percentage here. Generally, this is a little high on the percentage. Maybe we've kind of double counted a little bit, cleaning and maintenance and repairs. So let's bring down cleaning and maintenance, and you'll see how the percentage changes to, let's say, 3,000, and the percentage goes down to 35%. I've seen in the many apartment buildings that we've done, generally banks are underwriting 5% vacancy and anywhere from 30 to 35% maintenance. And it just always seems to come out that way. So now we have a net operating income of $73,500. And this is the number, we discussed it in the debt service coverage ratio lesson, but this is the number that's used to determine the size of the loan, plain and simple. That, along with some other data points, which I'll talk about in a second, is used to determine the size of the loan. So getting this right is very important. Now remember, it's 120,000 of gross scheduled income. That's assuming every unit is rented. If, for example, you're paying a manager a free apartment, you would still count the full rent, and then you would have here the management, you would bake into the management number that $1,000 a month for the apartment. So the management fee wouldn't be 6,000. This might be a third-party management fee, or your bookkeeper, or some other person that's doing sort of the paperwork on the evictions or whatever. So your management fee could be 5% or 6,000 plus the 12,000 that the free apartment accounts for. So that might be a management fee of a total of 18,000. So you just keep that in mind. when you're doing this. If, for example, you have a relative living in the building and the rents are below market, you'd want to make a footnote of that as well. So this 73,500, it now rolls into our loan analysis page. You see it here. We've got the 73,500 that comes from the prior calculation. We'd have to know a little bit about the market cap rates because it's going to play into valuation, and valuation will play into loan to value, and I'll show you how that works in a second. But if you look on LoopNet or you look on Marcus and Millichap or any other brokerage site which can provide you flyers or setups or packages of properties for sale in your area, you'll get a feel for what cap rates are in your particular area. So let's just say in this area that we're looking at, cap rates are 6%. The approximate value of the property, a cap rate, the way is used, you take 73,500, you divide it by 6%, and you get an approximate market value of $1,225,000. It's 10 units, so it's 122,000 a unit. I forget how many. I think we said it's 15,000 square feet. I'll show you down on the bottom. It's $82 a foot. And the owner, if the loan comes out, and I'll show you how we get that, to $897, the owner has equity of $327,000, which is the difference between the loan amount and the market value. The owner's equity is, we rarely ever use it. It's just kind of a nice to see. Also, if you have a buyer who's kicking tires, you can use this to size up a loan and then determine how much equity they need to come to the table with as a down payment. So that's sort of how we use this owner equity number. Other than that, it's really not used in the calculation. The data points that are used in the calculation are as follows. The interest rate is used. We need to know, there are three things we need to know. The interest rate that the bank is using to size up a loan, the amortization that they're using, it could be either 20, 25, or 30, and the debt service coverage ratio that the bank will be using. And then once we figure out the formula is baked into this Excel spreadsheet, and I'll show it to you in a second. But once we figure out the NOI, we would then look at our debt coverage ratio, and we would put in whatever the bank wants, right? So for example, let's say we know that apartment buildings are 1.25 debt coverage ratio. Now, as I've discussed in the DSCR section, that means that for every dollar of mortgage, we need $1.25 of net operating income. So if we put 125 in here and we hit enter, it shows that the income on this property, given a 125 debt cover, can support a loan request of $1,005,607. The only problem with that is the loan to value, and here's where the value up above came in. The loan to value then pops up to 82%. So it's the loan request here divided by the value of the property we came up with here, and that just is not going to work for most every lender. An 82% loan to value is just a little bit too high. When you're bumping up against the loan to value ceiling, it's called loan to value constrained. Most lenders are at 75%. If it's an acquisition, a little footnote, if it's an acquisition, some of the agency lenders will go to 80% on an acquisition. So if you're bumping up against an 82% LTV, maybe you need to, not maybe, but you need to adjust the DSCR. So let's go 1.35, and I'm at 76%, still not there. So let's go 1.37, and we're at 75%, right on the nose. So that will fit, that 75% will fit most lenders' credit boxes. And this interest rate, that's another one. Let's see how the loan changes, hypothetically, if let's say we can get a let's say we want to go for a 3-year loan. Let's say we want to go for a 3-year loan and amortize it over 30 years. And let's say today we can get a rate of 3.5%. We'll see how this loan amount changes. $995. And you'll see here if your amortization changes in some places. The same apartment building in Houston, Texas versus Los Angeles. In Houston, they will give you a 25-year amortization. And now we'll see how that loan amount changes here to $893. So the amortization, the interest rate that they're using, that the bank is using to underwrite or analyze the property, and the debt service coverage ratio, the data points, the metrics that are used to determine the size of the loan. And this is a handy calculator for that. If you go further down here, debt yield, again, I talked about it on the DSCR conversation. It's just the NOI divided by the size of the loan gives you your percentage yield or debt yield. We said it was 10 units, 15,000 feet. All these averages are essentially baked into this and done for you. So lastly, the way we get to this, and you'll be able to download an analysis sheet that I've put up here, and it walks you through how a loan is sized on an HP 12C. That's a Hewlett Packard 12C. You can buy one for $60, or you can download for $4.99 on your phone or your iPad an HP 12C, and I walk you through how to size a loan using that calculator. If you want to use an Excel, and here it is, we baked in all of these numbers using our Excel formulas, and you'd have to go to the formula, the financial formulas, and the present value formula. This is basically a present value formula, and all of the metrics are plugged in here as months. So if you're using, for example, as I have here, 3.50 divided by 12 is 0.29% a month. So let's just say for hypothetical, let's say it's 12%. You can see monthly it's 1%, right? So you're going to have loans that are going to be at 4%, let's say. So your monthly rate is 0.33. The amortization is right here. Amortization, it doesn't say AMORT, it says NP, which is number of periods that the loan purportedly will be paid back. So let's change the amortization. You'll see most amortization for apartment buildings are at 30 years. So your amortization is 360 months. And then the payment. So here's the, just stick with me here. I know we've been going for 18 minutes, but the payment will be your NOI divided by your debt service coverage ratio. So your payment is your net operating income divided by your debt service coverage ratio. So let's say hypothetically your debt service coverage ratio is a 2, which means for every $1 of debt, you need $2 of income. You'll see how your loan is going to go down to $641,000. So correspondingly, your loan payment is lower. So loan payment lower could be a good thing if you have enough equity to put down as a down payment. You'll see here in some great properties, let's say AAA tenants are in there. You might have a 1.05 debt coverage ratio, and your loan value pops up to $1,221,000. So that formula again is under the financial. It's under formulas of financial PV. It's a present value formula. Just remember that everything has to be by month. And again, you're going to have this as part of the course, and you'll be able to look at these formulas more closely. And we've been going for almost 20 minutes here. I don't want to lose my audience, but I'll just leave this to you to look at these formulas yourself and just sort of organically absorb it. And once you get it, it's like riding a bike. You'll say, aha, and this makes a lot of sense. it's a great handy tool for doing a quick loan analysis, and then to again use for your lenders to build credibility and communicate to them using numbers versus what ifs. That's it on the loan sizing and the math. Keep in mind that every property, from apartment buildings to hotels across the board, is done the same exact way. It's always drilling down to the net operating income and then determining what debt coverage ratio a lender's using for that particular asset class, the amortization that they're using for that asset class, and the interest rate that's being used at any given point on the timeline. So those are the things you need to learn. It's not that hard. Once you do the first one, you'll see that every other asset class is exactly the same. And as you can see, for those of you that might be or have been in the single family residential business, it's a heck of a lot different than the way a loan size is determined for the purchase of a house. So I'll conclude with that. Hope you have a great day, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you so much.